Good morning, students. So today in this session, we are going to discuss about the planning process. So in the previous sessions, we discussed about the importance, features, and limitations of planning. So in the previous class, we discussed about limitations of planning. Under that, we had different points like planning leads to rigidity, planning may not work in dynamic environment, planning reduces creativity, planning involves huge cost, planning is time consuming, and planning does not guarantee success. So in today's session, we are going to discuss about the planning process. So the success of the business depends to a large extent in effective planning. So if the planning in the organization is effective, or the planning in the organization is done in a proper manner, then it plays a major or a very prominent role in the success of business. So planning is a decision making process which is concerned with deciding in advance what is to be done and how it is to be done. It is a decision making process which is concerned with deciding in advance what is to be done and how that particular thing is to be done. So you are just making decision regarding what are the things you have to do in the future. That is nothing but planning. So you decide about what to do in the future or what has to be done in the future. That is why it is said that planning is a decision making process. So the logical and scientific planning must go through the steps, certain steps of planning process. It is the logical and scientific planning has to go through certain steps or logical steps. Yes, so which are those logical steps which has to be taken into consideration while planning? Okay, so the first one comes setting objectives. So the first and foremost step of each and every organization is setting objective. The first and foremost step of each and every organization is setting objective. So every organization must have certain objectives. So there is no business organization without any objective. Yeah, there is no business organization without any objective. So the objectives, it may be set for the entire organization for each department. So objectives will be set for both for the organization as well as for the individual department. Yes, it will be set for both the entire organization as well as the individual department. That is why it is said that objectives may be set for the entire organization and each department or unit within the organization. So objectives are nothing but the goal that specify what the organization wants to achieve. Objectives are nothing but the goals which the organization has to achieve. Yeah. So when coming to setting objective is the first function of planning process. Setting objective is the first function of planning process. So objectives are the goals which determine what the organization wants to achieve. I told you that objectives are just nothing but the goals which determine what the organization wants to achieve. So this objective, they must be specific, realistic, measurable as far as possible. It should be specific, realistic and measurable as far as possible. So every business organization must have certain objectives. Every business organization must have certain objectives. Obviously each and every business will have certain objectives of its own. So objectives may be set for entire organization like I told you, or for each department or a unit within the organization. So objectives, it has to be stated clearly to all departments and employees of the organization. So they give direction to all departments. Objectives, it is said that it should be stated clearly to all departments, yes, units and employees. So they give direction to all departments, yes, departmental units. They need to set their own objectives within the broad framework of organization's philosophy. So organizations have to percolate down to each unit of employees at all levels. Yes, it has to percolate down to each unit of employees at all levels. So at the same time, manager must contribute ideas and participate in the objective setting process. Okay, the second one is developing premises. So planning, it is essential for establishment of certain objectives in uncertain future. Yes, okay, so planning is essential for accomplishment of objectives in uncertain future. So such plans are formulated with certain assumptions. So plans obviously are formulated with certain assumptions. So what you do is like you predict the things which may happen in the future, you foresee the things that may happen in the future. So you are formulating the plans on the basis of certain assumptions. So planning premises are nothing but the assumptions about the future conditions and events. They are nothing but the assumptions about future conditions and events, like trends in population, changes in political and economical environment, trends in population, changes in political and economical environment, variations in production cost and price. Yes, variation in production cost and price, government and legal regulations, etc. So plans should be formulated by the management. Plans should be formulated by the management within the framework of planning premises. Plan should be formulated by the management within the framework of planning premises. So when coming to assumptions, the premises or assumptions, it must be same for all and there should be total agreement on them. It should be same for all and there should be total agreement on them. So all managers involved in planning, all the managers involved in plannings should be familiar with and use the same assumption. So all the managers involved in planning should be familiar with and use the same assumption. So all should be using the same assumptions. Okay, the third one is identification of alternative course of action. So identification of alternative course of action. So under this identification of alternative course of action, once objectives are set and assumptions are made, then the next step would be to act upon them. Okay, so once the objectives are set and assumptions are made, the next step is to act upon them. That is, the alternative courses of actions are to be identified through which the organization can achieve its objective. So there may be many ways to act and achieve objectives. So all the alternative course of actions should be identified. So all the alternative course of actions should be identified. So you will have different course of action. So while you plan, you have different alternative course of action. Yes, so like I told you in your previous class, if there is one single plan, then there is no need of selecting or making decision. Why? Because you don't have any alternative. So when you have alternative, yes, so what you do is like you identify the alternative course of action. So the course of action which may be taken could be either routine or innovative. The course of action which will be taken will be either routine or innovative. So an innovative course may be adopted by involving some people and sharing their ideas. Yeah, so obviously when it is an innovative course, it may be adopted by involving more people and sharing their ideas. If the project is important, then more alternatives should be generated and thoroughly discussed among the members of the organization. So according to the importance, so if the project becomes very important, then more alternatives should be generated and thoroughly discussed amongst the members of the organization. Yeah, so there may be like I told you, there may be many ways to act and achieve objectives. The management should know all the alternatives or identify the alternative course of action to achieve the objective. So the person or the manager in the organization has to select one best alternative. Okay, the next one is evaluating alternative course. Evaluating alternative course. Okay, so the next step is to weigh the pros and cons of each and every alternative. So we have identified, right now we have identified the alternative course of action. Yes, so we have identified the alternative courses of action. So ಎಷ್ಟು alternatives ಇದೆ ಅದನ್ನೆಲ್ಲ ಐಡೆಂಟಿಫೈ ಮಾಡಿ ಆಗಿದೆ. So now the work which you have is to evaluate that particular alternative course of action and to know about its value. You want to know about its feasibility, how they work in the organization or how effective it is in the organization. Yes, you are going to evaluate, you are going to analyze the strength and weakness of each and every alternative. So each and every alternative or each and every course will have main variables which have to be weighed against each other. The positive and the negative aspect of each proposal need to be evaluated in the light of objectives to be achieved. That is nothing but the analyzing the strength and weaknesses of each and every alternative. So when you have different alternatives, the alternatives will have both advantages and disadvantages. Yes, okay, that is each and every alternative consists of both what advantages, pros and cons. Okay, so you'll have to know the strength and weaknesses of each and every alternative. So all alternative course of action have their own merits and limitations, and there is a need to evaluate each and every course of action in the light of objectives to be achieved. So ಏನು objective ಇದೆ ಅದನ್ನ ಮೈಂಡಲ್ಲಿ ಇಟ್ಕೊಂಡು what you have to do is like you will have to evaluate the alternative course of action. Yes, we'll have to evaluate the alternative course of action. So not just identifying the alternative course of action is enough. Bari alternative course of action anna identify madre salodilla. What you have to do is like you have to evaluate those alternatives which are available. So in alternatives available ide, so alternatives do ಏನು ಮಾಡಬೇಕಾಗತ್ತೆ ಅದನ್ನು ಇವ್ಯಾಲ್ಯೂಯೇಟ್ ಮಾಡಬೇಕಾಗತ್ತೆ. ಯು ವಿಲ್ ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಟು ನೋ ಇಟ್ಸ್ ಫೀಸಿಬಿಲಿಟಿ, ಹೌ ಗುಡ್ ಇಟ್ ವರ್ಕ್ಸ್ ಇನ್ ದಿ ಆರ್ಗನೈಸೇಷನ್ ಆರ್ ಹೌ ಎಫೆಕ್ಟಿವ್ ಇಟ್ ಈಸ್ ಇನ್ ದಿ ಆರ್ಗನೈಸೇಷನ್ ಬಿಕಮ್ಸ್ very important. So that for that reason what to do is like you evaluate certain alternatives available in the organization. So the next one is selecting an alternative. So we came up with objective. Yes, we brought up with the objective, we assumed the premises or we developed a particular premises or we took certain assumptions in order to carry out with the planning. So after that what we did is like we identified the alternative course of action. So I told you there will be different alternative courses of action. Yes, so you identify each and every alternate course of action in order to achieve the organizational objective. So after identifying all the alternative course of action, what to do is like you evaluate the alternative course of action. You try to know about the strength and weakness, or you analyze the strength and weakness of each and every alternative. Yes, in the light of objectives to be achieved. So you keep the objectives in mind and you know about the, or you try to know about or analyze the pros and cons or weaknesses and strength of each and every alternative. So now what you are going to do is you select an alternative. So this is the real point of decision making. Yes, this is the real point of decision making. So the best plan has to be adopted and implemented here in this place. Okay, so after examining each and every possible course of action, after examining each and every possible course of action, the best is to be selected for accomplishment of objectives of the organization. The best is to be selected for accomplishment of objectives of the organization. So the ideal plan, of course, would be the most feasible, profitable and least negative consequence. Which will be the best plan? Is the one which is most feasible, profitable and with ಲೀಸ್ಟ್ ನೆಗೆಟಿವ್ ಕಾನ್ಸಿಕ್ವೆನ್ಸಸ್. ಸೊ ಯಾವುದರಲ್ಲಿ ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಫೀಸಿಬಿಲಿಟಿ ಇದೆ, ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಪ್ರಾಫಿಟಬಿಲಿಟಿ ಇದೆ, ಕಡಿಮೆ ನೆಗೆಟಿವ್ ಕಾನ್ಸಿಕ್ವೆನ್ಸ್ ಇದೆ, ದಟ್ ವಿಲ್ ಬಿ ದ ಐಡಿಯಲ್ plan for the organization. So most plans may not always be subjected to mathematical analysis. Most plans may not be always subjected to the mathematical analysis. In such cases, subjectivity and managers experience, judgment and at times intuition play a very important part in selecting most viable alternatives. Okay, so ಕೆಲವೊಂದು ಸಿಚುವೇಶನ್ಗಳಲ್ಲಿ most plans may not always be subjected to mathematical analysis. ಸೊ ಎಲ್ಲ ಪ್ಲಾನ್ಸನ್ನು ಮ್ಯಾಥಮೆಟಿಕಲ್ ಅನಲೈಸಿಸಲ್ಲಿ ನಮಗೇನು ಮಾಡೋಕ್ಕಾಗಿಲ್ಲ, ಎವ್ಯಾಲ್ಯೂಯೇಟ್ ಮಾಡೋಕ್ಕಾಗೋದಿಲ್ಲ, ಸೆಲೆಕ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡೋಕ್ಕಾಗೋದಿಲ್ಲ. ಸೊ ಅಂಥ ಸಿಚುವೇಷನಲ್ಲಿ ದ ಸಬ್ಜೆಕ್ಟಿವಿಟಿ ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ದಿ ಮ್ಯಾನೇಜರ್ಸ್ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪೀರಿಯನ್ಸ್ ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ಜಡ್ಜ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಪ್ಲೇಸ್ ಅ ವೆರಿ ಇಂಪಾರ್ಟೆಂಟ್ ರೋಲ್. ಸೊ ವಾಟ್ ಯು ಡೂ ಇಸ್ ಲೈಕ್ ಯು ಇವ್ಯಾಲ್ಯುಯೇಟ್ ದಿ ಆಲ್ಟರ್ನೇಟಿವ್ ಕೋರ್ಸ್ ಆಫ್ ಆ್ಯಕ್ಷನ್ ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ಯು ಸೆಲೆಕ್ಟ್ ಒನ್ ಬೆಸ್ಟ್ ಆಲ್ಟರ್ನೇಟಿವ್ ಆಫ್ಟರ್ ಎಕ್ಸಾಮಿನಿಂಗ್ ಈಚ್ ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ಎವ್ರಿ ಪಾಸಿಬಲ್ ಕೋರ್ಸ್ ಆಫ್ ಆ್ಯಕ್ಷನ್. ಸೊ ಯು ಫೈಂಡ್ ದಿ strength and weaknesses of each and every course of action and you select one among those alternatives. Okay, the next one is implementing the plan. Okay, so after the plan is been selected, yes, or after an alternative is been selected, after the alternative is been selected, the next thing what you are going to do is, after it is selected, it has to be implemented. So I'll just give you a good example. Okay, so ನೀವೇನು ಮಾಡ್ತೀರಿ, ಏನೋ ಒಂದು ಪ್ಲ್ಯಾನನ್ನು ಹಾಕ್ತೀರಿ ಅಥವಾ ಒಂದು ಆಬ್ಜೆಕ್ಟಿವನ್ನು ಸೆಟ್ ಮಾಡಿರ್ತೀರಿ. ಒಂದು ಆಬ್ಜೆಕ್ಟಿವನ್ನು ಸೆಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀರಿ. ಓಕೆ, ಸೊ ನನಗೆ ಫಾರ್ ಎಕ್ಸಾಂಪಲ್ 5 ಏಕರ್ದು ಕಾಫಿ ಗಿಡ ಅಥವಾ ಕಾಫಿ ತೋಟ ಬೇಕು ಅನ್ನೋದು. ಓಕೆ, ಎಸ್, ಸೊ ಅಲ್ಲಿ 5 ಎಕರೆ ತೋಟ ಬೇಕು ಅಂದಮೇಲೆ ನೀವೇನು ಮಾಡ್ತೀರಿ, 5 ಎಕರೆ ಕಾಫಿ ತೋಟ ಅಲ್ಲ, ಟೋಟಲಿ 5 ಎಕರೆ ತೋಟ ಬೇಕು ಅಂತೇಳಿ ಏನು ಮಾಡ್ತೀರಿ, ಒಂದು ಆಬ್ಜೆಕ್ಟಿವನ್ನು ಸೆಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀರಿ. ಓಕೆ, ಸೊ ಅದು ಕಳೆದ್ಮೇಲೆ ಅದು ಫಸ್ಟ್ ಪಾಯಿಂಟ್, ಸೆಟ್ಟಿಂಗ್ ಆಬ್ಜೆಕ್ಟಿವ್. ಯಾವುದು, 5 ಎಕರೆ ತೋಟ ಬೇಕು ಅನ್ನೋದು ಸೆಟ್ಟಿಂಗ್ ಆಬ್ಜೆಕ್ಟಿವ್, ದಟ್ ಈಸ್ ದಿ ಆಬ್ಜೆಕ್ಟಿವ್. ಎಸ್, ಓಕೆ, ಸೊ ಆಬ್ಜೆಕ್ಟಿವ್ ಆದಮೇಲೆ ನೆಕ್ಸ್ಟ್ ಒನ್ ಇಸ್ ಡೆವಲಪಿಂಗ್ ಪ್ರಿಮಿಸಸ್. ಸೊ ಡೆವಲಪಿಂಗ್ ಪ್ರಿಮಿಸಸ್ಗೆ ಬರುವಾಗ ನೀವೇನು ಮಾಡ್ತೀವಿ, ಯು ಜಸ್ಟ್ assume the things which may happen in the future. ಸೊ ಏನು ಮಾಡ್ತೀರಿ, ನೀವು ಫ್ಯೂಚರನ್ನು ಪ್ರೆಡಿಕ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಹೋಗ್ತೀರಿ. ದಟ್ ಈಸ್ ನಥಿಂಗ್ ಬಟ್ ಡೆವಲಪಿಂಗ್ ಪ್ರಿಮಿಸಸ್. ಯು ಅಸ್ಯೂಮ್ ಥಿಂಗ್ಸ್ ಲೈಕ್ ವಾಟ್ ಮೇ ಹ್ಯಾಪನ್ ಇನ್ ದಿ ಫ್ಯೂಚರ್. ಸೊ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಆ ತೋಟ, ಅದು ಯಾವ ತೋಟ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು, ಕಾಫಿ ತೋಟ ಮಾಡಬೇಕಾ, ಏಲಕ್ಕಿ ತೋಟ ಮಾಡಬೇಕಾ, ಅಥವಾ ಬೇರೆ ಏನಾದರೂ ಮಾಡಬೇಕಾ, ಬಾಳೆ ತೋಟ ಮಾಡಬೇಕಾ, ಅಥವಾ ತೆಂಗಿನಕಾಯಿ ನೆಡಬೇಕಾ, ಅಥವಾ ಅಡಿಕೆ ನೆಡಬೇಕಾ. ಸೊ ಅದು ಅಲ್ಲೇನು ಮಾಡ್ತೀರಿ, ನೀವು ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ಮುಂಚೆ ನೀವೇನು ಮಾಡ್ತೀರಿ, ಅಸಂಪ್ಷನ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀರಿ. ಅಂದರೆ ಯಾವುದು ಫೀಸಿಬಲ್ ಆಗಿದೆ, ಯಾವುದು 5 ಇಯರ್ಸಲ್ಲಿ ಅಥವಾ 10 ಇಯರ್ಸಲ್ಲಿ ಅಥವಾ ಫ್ಯೂಚರಲ್ಲಿ ಯಾವುದು ಹೆಲ್ಪ್ಫುಲ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ, ಫ್ಯೂಚರಲ್ಲಿ ಯಾವುದು ಹೆಲ್ಪ್ಫುಲ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ ಅನ್ನೋದನ್ನು ನೀವೇನು ಮಾಡ್ತೀರಿ, ಅಸ್ಯೂಮ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಹೋಗ್ತೀವಿ. ಯು ಪ್ರೆಡಿಕ್ಟ್ ದಿ ಫ್ಯೂಚರ್, ವಾಟ್ ಮೇ ಹ್ಯಾಪನ್ ಇನ್ ಫ್ಯೂಚರಲ್ಲಿ ಯಾವುದಕ್ಕೆ ಮಾರ್ಕೆಟ್ ಇರುತ್ತೆ, ಯಾವುದಕ್ಕೆ ಮಾರ್ಕೆಟ್ ಕಡಿಮೆ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. ಸಪೋಸ್ ಮಳೆ ಇಲ್ಲದೆ ಇದ್ದರೆ, ಸಪೋಸ್ ಏನು ಕ್ರಾಪನ್ನು ನೀವು ಕಲ್ಟಿವೇಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀರಿ ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ಮಾರ್ಕೆಟ್ ಕಡಿಮೆ ಆದರೆ, ಸೊ ಎಲ್ಲವನ್ನು ನೀವೇನು ಮಾಡ್ತೀರಿ, ನೀವು ಯೋಚನೆ ಮಾಡ್ತೀರಿ. ಸೊ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ನಾನೇನು ಮಾಡಬೇಕು, ಇಲ್ಲಿ 5 ಎಕರೆ ಮೇಲೆ ಇನ್ವೆಸ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು ಬೇಡೋ, ಎಲ್ಲವನ್ನು ನೀವೇನು ಮಾಡ್ತೀರಿ, ಯು ಡೆವಲಪ್ ದಿ ಪ್ರಿಮಿಸಸ್. ಸೊ ನಿಮಗೆ ಒಟ್ಟಾರೆ ಅಲ್ಲಿ 5 ಎಕರೆ ತೋಟ ಬೇಕು. ಸೊ ಅದರಲ್ಲಿ ನೀವೇನು ಮಾಡ್ತೀರಿ, ಯು ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಡಿಫ್ರೆಂಟ್ ಅಸಂಪ್ಷನ್ಸ್, ಲೈಕ್ ಇದು ಮಾಡಿದ್ರೆ ಆಗುತ್ತೋ ಇಲ್ವೋ, ಯಾವುದು ಅಡ್ವೈಸೇಬಲ್, ಯಾವುದು ಚೆನ್ನಾಗಿಲ್ಲ, ಯಾವುದು ಫೀಸಿಬಲ್, ಯಾವುದು ಅಲ್ಲ, ಎಲ್ಲವನ್ನ ಯೋಚನೆ ಮಾಡ್ತೀರಿ. ಅಲ್ಲಿಂದ ನೀವೇನು ಮಾಡ್ತೀರಿ, ಯು ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಡಿಫ್ರೆಂಟ್ ಆಲ್ಟರ್ನೇಟಿವ್ಸ್. ನಾನು ಹೇಳಿದಾಗೆ ಕಾಫಿ ನೆಡ್ಬೋದು, ಕಾಫಿ ನೆಡ್ಬೋದು, ಏಲಕ್ಕಿ ನೆಡ್ಬೋದು, ಅಥವಾ ಸಿಲ್ಲರ್ ಮರ ಹಾಕ್ಬೋದು, ಅಥವಾ ಬಾಳೆ ಗಿಡ ಹಾಕ್ಬೋದು, ಅಥವಾ ಅಡಿಕೆ ತೋಟ ಮಾಡ್ಬೋದು, ಅಥವಾ ತೆಂಗಿನ ತೋಟ ಮಾಡ್ಬೋದು, ಅಥವಾ ಜೋಳ ಮಾಡ್ಬೋದು, ಅಥವಾ ಶುಗರ್ ಕೇನ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬೋದು, ಯಾವ್ದು ಬೇಕಾದರೂ ಮಾಡ್ಬೋದು. ಎಸ್. ಸೊ ಕಲ್ಟಿವೇಷನ್ ಯಾವ್ದು ಬೇಕಾದ್ರೂ ಮಾಡ್ಬೋದು. ಸೊ ವಾಟ್ ಯು ಡೂ ಇಸ್ ಲೈಕ್ ಯು ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಡಿಫ್ರೆಂಟ್ ಆಲ್ಟರ್ನೇಟಿವ್ಸ್, ಬೇರೆ ಬೇರೆ ಆಲ್ಟರ್ನೇಟಿವ್ಸ್ ಇದೆ. ಎಸ್. ಸೊ ಇದೆಲ್ಲ ಆಲ್ಟರ್ನೇಟಿವ್. ಸೊ ಇಷ್ಟು ಆಲ್ಟರ್ನೇಟಿವ್ಸನ್ನು ನಾನು ಹೇಳಿದೆ, ಈಗ ಕಾಫಿ ಆಗಿರ್ಬೋದು ಅಥವಾ ಏಲಕ್ಕಿ ಆಗಿರ್ಬೋದು ಅಥವಾ ತೆಂಗಿನ ತೋಟ ಆಗಿರ್ಬೋದು ಅಥವಾ ಬಾಳೆ ಗಿಡ ಆಗಿರ್ಬೋದು ಅಥವಾ ಬೇರೆ ಯಾವುದೇ ಆಗಿರ್ಬೋದು, ಆಲ್ ದೀಸ್ ಆರ್ ಆಲ್ಟರ್ನೇಟಿವ್. ಸೊ ಅದನ್ನು ಏನು ಮಾಡ್ತೀರಿ ನೆಕ್ಸ್ಟ್ ಸ್ಟೆಪ್ಪಲ್ಲಿ ಅಂದರೆ ಇವ್ಯಾಲ್ಯೂಯೇಷನ್ ಆಫ್ ಆಲ್ಟರ್ನೇಟಿವ್ ಕೋರ್ಸಲ್ಲಿ, ಇದರಲ್ಲಿ ನೀವು ಅದರ ಸ್ಟ್ರೆಂತ್ ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ವೀಕ್ನೆಸಸ್ಸನ್ನು ಏನು ಮಾಡ್ತೀರಿ, ಇವ್ಯಾಲ್ಯೂಯೇಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀರಿ. ಯು ಇವ್ಯಾಲ್ಯೂಯೇಟ್ ದಿ ಸ್ಟ್ರೆಂತ್ ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ವೀಕ್ನೆಸಸ್ ಆಫ್ ಈಚ್ ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ಎವ್ರಿಥಿಂಗ್. ಎಸ್. ಸೊ ನಾವು ಯಾವುದನ್ನೆಲ್ಲ ಐಡೆಂಟಿಫೈ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದೀವಿ, ಸೊ ಅದರ ಸ್ಟ್ರೆಂತ್ ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ವೀಕ್ನೆಸಸ್ಸನ್ನು ನೋಡಿಬಿಟ್ಟು ಮತ್ತೇನು ಮಾಡ್ತೀರಿ, ಯು ಸೆಲೆಕ್ಟ್ ಒನ್ ಅಮಾಂಗ್ ದಟ್. ಎಸ್. ಸೊ ಇಷ್ಟರಲ್ಲಿ ಈಗ 5 ಎಕರೆ ತೋಟ ನೋಡುವಾಗ 5 ಎಕರೆಯಲ್ಲಿ ಯಾವುದನ್ನು ಕಲ್ಟಿವೇಟ್ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು. ಎಸ್. ಓಕೆ, ಅದನ್ನು ಏನು ಮಾಡ್ತೀರಿ, ಒಂದನ್ನು ಸೆಲೆಕ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀವಿ. ಒಂದು ಕಾಫಿಯನ್ನು ಸೆಲೆಕ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀರಿ ಅಥವಾ ಏಲಕ್ಕಿಯನ್ನು ಸೆಲೆಕ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀರಿ ಅಥವಾ ಬಾಳೆ ಗಿಡ ಹಾಕ್ತೀರಿ. ಎಸ್. ಅಥವಾ ತೆಂಗಿನಕಾಯಿ ಹಾಕ್ತೀರಿ, ಯಾವುದೊಂದು ಹಾಕ್ತೀರಿ. ಸೊ ಯಾವುದು ಬೆಸ್ಟ್ ಇದೆ ಅದನ್ನು ಏನು ಮಾಡ್ತೀರಿ, ಸೆಲೆಕ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀರಿ. ಸೊ ಆಫ್ಟರ್ ಸೆಲೆಕ್ಟಿಂಗ್ ಏನು ಮಾಡ್ತೀರಿ, ಯಾವುದೊಂದನ್ನು ಸೆಲೆಕ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡಿ ಆಯಿತು. ಫಾರ್ ಎಕ್ಸಾಂಪಲ್ ಕಾಫಿ ತೋಟ ಮಾಡ್ತೀನಿ, 5 ಎಕರೆ ಕಾಫಿ ತೋಟ ಮಾಡ್ತೀನಿ, 5 ಎಕರೆ ಜಾಗ ಇದೆ ಅದರಲ್ಲಿ ನಾನು ಕಾಫಿ ತೋಟ ಮಾಡ್ತೀನಿ ಅಂತೇಳಿ ಸೆಲೆಕ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡಿ ಆಯಿತು. ಸೆಲೆಕ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡಿ ಆದಮೇಲೆ ದ ನೆಕ್ಸ್ಟ್ ಒನ್ ಈಸ್ ಇಂಪ್ಲಿಮೆಂಟೇಷನ್. ಎಸ್. ದ ನೆಕ್ಸ್ಟ್ ಒನ್ ಈಸ್ ಇಂಪ್ಲಿಮೆಂಟೇಷನ್ ಆಫ್ ಪ್ಲ್ಯಾನ್. ಸೊ ಅದನ್ನು ಏನು ಮಾಡಬೇಕು, ಇಂಪ್ಲಿಮೆಂಟ್ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು. ಈಗ ನಾನು ಕಾಫಿ ತೋಟ ಮಾಡ್ತೀನಿ ಅಂತೇಳಿ ಪ್ಲ್ಯಾನ್ ಮಾಡಿ ಆಯಿತು. ಸೊ ನಾನೇನು ಮಾಡಬೇಕಾಗತ್ತೆ, ಆ ಕಾಫಿ ತೋಟಕ್ಕಿರೋ ಇಂಪ್ಲಿಮೆಂಟೇಷನ್ ಮಾಡಬೇಕಾಗತ್ತೆ. ಯು ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಟು ಇಂಪ್ಲಿಮೆಂಟ್ ದಟ್. ಎಸ್. ನೀವೇನು ಮಾಡಬೇಕಾಗತ್ತೆ, ಆ ಕಾಫಿ ಗಿಡಗಳನ್ನ ನೆಡಬೇಕಾಗತ್ತೆ. ಸೊ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ನೋಡಿ, so this under implementation of plan, this step is concerned with putting the plan into action to achieve the objective. It is concerned with putting the plan into action. So the step is concerned with putting the plan into action to achieve the objectives. Putting the plan into action to achieve the objectives. So implementation of the plan require the formulation of policies, procedures, budgets and program. Implementation of plan requires formulation of policy, procedure, budgets and program. So it requires delegation of the requisite authority and responsibility to the subordinate. It requires delegation of requisite authority and responsibility to the subordinate. So not only this but also it requires cooperation, participation and commitment of the subordinate for effective implementation. Cooperation, participation and commitment of the subordinate. Cooperation, participation and commitment of the subordinate for efficient implementation of the plan. Okay, the last one is follow up of action. So ನಾನು ಇಷ್ಟು ಹೇಳುವಾಗ ಅಲ್ಲೇನಾಯಿತು, ಎಲ್ಲ ಆಯಿತು, ಅರ್ಧಕ್ಕೆ ಮುಕ್ಕಾಲು ಎಲ್ಲ ಆಯಿತು. ಲಾಸ್ಟ್ ಒನ್ ಏನಾಗಿದೆ, ನಿಮ್ಮ ಫಾಲೋ ಅಪ್ ಆಫ್ ಪ್ಲ್ಯಾನ್. ಸೊ ನೀವು ಏನು ಮಾಡ್ತೀರಿ, ಇಂಪ್ಲಿಮೆಂಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀರಿ. ನಾನು ಹೇಳಿದೆ ಕಾಫಿ ಗಿಡ ಇದು ಕಾಫಿ ಎಂಥದ್ದು ಗಿಡ ತೋಟ ಮಾಡೋದು ಅಂತೇಳಿ ಪ್ಲ್ಯಾನ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರೆ. ಸೊ ಕಾಫಿ ಗಿಡ ನೆಟ್ಟಾಯಿತು. ಸೊ ಕಾಫಿ ಗಿಡ ನೆಟ್ಟಾದಮೇಲೆ ಹಾಗೆ ಬಿಟ್ಟರೆ ಆಗೋದಿಲ್ಲ. ಸೊ ನೀವೇನು ಮಾಡಬೇಕಾಗತ್ತೆ, ಅದನ್ನು ಫಾಲೋ ಅಪ್ ಮಾಡಬೇಕಾಗುತ್ತೆ. ಗಿಡ ಬರ್ತಾ ಇದೆಯೋ ಇಲ್ವೋ, ಏನು ಕಡಿಮೆ ಆಗಿದೆ ಎಲ್ಲವನ್ನು ನೋಡಬೇಕಾಗುತ್ತೆ ಅಲ್ವಾ. ಎಸ್. ಸೊ ದ ಲಾಸ್ಟ್ ಒನ್ ಇಸ್ ಫಾಲೋ ಅಪ್ ಆಫ್ ಆ್ಯಕ್ಷನ್. ಸೊ the organization to see whether plans are being implemented and the activities are performed as per the plans. To see whether plans are being implemented and activities are performed as per the plans adopted is also one of the part of planning process. Yes. So whether the plans are implemented and whether the activities are performed as per the plans. Okay. So monitoring the plan is equally important to ensure that objectives are achieved. Yes. Monitoring the plan is equally important to ensure that objectives are achieved. So if there is proper monitoring, ಯಾವಾಗ ನೀವು ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಮಾನಿಟರಿಂಗ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀರಾ ಅವಾಗ ಮಾತ್ರ ಯು ಕ್ಯಾನ್ ಎನ್ಶ್ಯೂರ್ ದಟ್ ಆಬ್ಜೆಕ್ಟಿವ್ಸ್ ಆರ್ ಅಚೀವ್ಡ್. ಸೊ ನಾನು ಹೇಳ್ದಂಗೆ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಕಾಫಿ ಗಿಡ ನೆಟ್ಟಾದಮೇಲೆ ಸುಮ್ಮನೆ ನಾವು ಕಾಫಿ ಗಿಡ ಆಯಿತು, ಇನ್ನೂ ನಮಗೆ ಏನು ಇದು ಬರುತ್ತೆ, ಈಲ್ಡ್ ಬರುತ್ತೆ, ಅವಾಗ ನಾನು ಹೋಗಿ ನೋಡ್ತೀನಿ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಆಗೋದಿಲ್ಲ. ಯು ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಟು have a proper monitoring on that. Yes. So monitoring the plan is very important. So ನಾವೇನು ಮಾಡಬೇಕಾಗುತ್ತೆ, ಆಗಿಂದಾಗೆ ಹೋಗಿ ನೋಡ್ತಾ ಇರಬೇಕಾಗುತ್ತೆ. Yes. So that is nothing but follow up. So if you follow up, then you get to know that the things are according to the objectives which are set.